Hey guys, my name is Shai, and this is the weekly reading for the last week of April. I'm recording it on Monday, April 25th, and I have to laugh because I wrote down the days of the week on my piece of paper this week so that I can keep track of what I'm talking about. And before I get into anything, I have to thank Lydia for sending me and gifting me this amazing, beautiful rose oracle that I have had my eyes on for so long. So thank you so much to Lydia. And honestly, I'm just starting to feel so spoiled with the gifts I have receiving. I am practicing receiving, so thank you all for helping me do that. Okay, so this week we need to hang on to our hats because damn, okay, so Wednesday, April 27th, Venus conjunct Neptune. I'm just gonna take this one thing at a time because this all culminates on Saturday with the solar eclipse in Taurus and also the Venus Neptune conjunction in Pisces at the same time as the solar eclipse. So, but there's like so many things happening leading up to that. It's like this entire week is just this crazy train. We're on the crazy train going off the rails, and it's all going to culminate in the solar eclipse, except it's not going to stop there. I didn't even peek into what happens for May. I'm going to start that like Sunday next week. I'll figure out what's going on in May leading up to the second eclipse. But it's like this is like enough for any one person to deal with in a week. So I'm going to take this one aspect at a time and just see what messages want to come through. So on Wednesday, the Venus-Neptune conjunction. The return. A new story. You decide. Alignment. It's coming together. Okay, I'm getting a little emotional, and I can't even really talk about this without telling my personal story with this. So last year on April 27th, my cat, my amazing, beautiful cat Bear, he decided to leave his body. And so this week, the 27th, is going to be his anniversary of his transition. And then I pull this card, the return. Okay? I don't even know what to say about that. I feel like my personal thing, because we were going to go visit his burial site on Wednesday, and I honestly don't know how to tune past that. I feel like my my personal thing with this is kind of overwhelming my sense of what this might mean for everyone else. Let me get some tarot cards on this. Okay, the bottom of the deck, and I had already shuffled this, right? I always shuffle the cards when I put them away, is the Fool. So a new beginning. A new story, right? The Fool, a new story. You decide, alignment, it's coming together. It's interesting that we have this aspect of the return along with this new beginning. Venus conjunct Neptune. Three of Pentacles, a coming together in the physical. Ace of Pentacles, a new beginning, again. And the Princess of Swords, seeing the light. You know, I pulled this is the Page of Swords. I pulled the Page of Swords for Bear when he transitioned. This is like, there's just no other way for me to read this outside of my personal vibe on this. I can't see past my own experience here because I'm so emotionally invested in it. It's seeing a new way of how you want to be, making that change. And when Bear left his body, that initiated the most massive spiritual shift for me that went on for months last year. And it was all about learning to understand that when people leave their bodies, that it is so much of a choice. It is so much of a choice. And I had to really learn to respect his choice, and that everything about how it happened is his choice, and that's what he wanted. And I had to learn to respect that. And he had this experience of, for him, that was his new beginning, right? That was his choice. It was his new beginning. Because he wanted to return home. And so somehow, some way, that is playing out for us this week, Wednesday, with the Venus-Neptune conjunction, right? I'm not going to really be able to get more specific than that. I'm going to just leave it open, because what I can say is that it begins by feeling your way forward, feeling into what you want. I mean, we do have this air energy with the Princess of Swords, right? The Page of Swords here. But with the Page of Swords, it's a little bit like learning to trust, like, the thoughts that just come to you, right? It's not analyzing. It's not thinking and figuring. It's just having thoughts come through your heart space. Thoughts come through your heart. It's almost like thinking with your heart. And it's really funny. I've been having this thing happen on my phone when I'm typing. It keeps when I try to say head, it keeps auto-correcting to heart. And I think that is actually at the heart of this message, because Venus conjunct Neptune is Pisces. That is such watery heart energy, right? Although as I'm saying that, I'm hearing in my head, it's like the heart chakra is not the water chakra, right? I know often we kind of equate the heart with water and emotions, but that's actually more, if we're thinking purely in terms of chakras, right? There is a system that believes that, the water chakra is your sacral chakra, and that, your sacral is the water and the feminine and the feeling, and that the heart, at least for me, when I started learning about all this stuff from scratch, I did kind of equate the heart with feeling and with water, and then it's kind of like, no, that's not exactly it. And in the system that views the sacral chakra as the water chakra, that same system views the heart chakra as the air chakra. And I remember thinking that was so strange, because I was like, air, that's like mind energy, that's mental energy, but what if it's not really that, at least in this particular perspective right here, right? Always different ways of looking at it, and they all have something to offer. But what if the heart is emphasizing here kind of like emptiness, but emptiness in terms of like mindfulness, like pure awareness is the word I want. Awareness, just clear, pure awareness, and just allowing this new beginning, this fresh start, to be channeled through your heart. And it will eventually manifest as an idea, but it's like an idea that just came through your heart portal. It's an idea that it's not generated by your human mind. It is just an idea that flows through your heart portal and just presents itself. And then you go, oh, that's that. I don't even want to add any more to it. It's just, oh, that. It's just an idea coming through your awareness, right? Because Venus conjunct Neptune is going to be, I feel like it's going to be quite subtle. I don't feel like we should expect anything like massive revelations and stuff like that. I feel like this is way, way, way more subtle, and just having impressions flow through you that you might struggle to articulate, but that you will kind of notice them if you really clarify your awareness and just notice that they have come through. So I'm gonna just leave that. Okay. And then Thursday, I think that was the Lover's card that I just saw flip up, and then I kept shuffling it. Mercury trine Pluto. Okay, so aspects to Pluto, right? So it wasn't very long ago we had Mercury square Pluto. Mercury trine Pluto is going to be a lot more gentle than that. It won't be as conflicting. It will be more it still has that transformative and a transformative tension of anything to do with Pluto, right? And this will, of course, involve inspiration to let go of things, inspiration to let go of mindsets, inspiration to let go of thoughts that don't serve you. I'm pretty sure I remember last week talking about identifying thoughts that just aren't useful to you and just letting them go. So this is really going to help with that, but it's going to feel easier, right? A trine to Pluto is easier than that square to Pluto. It's easier than the conjunction to Pluto. It's feeling more of just like, imagine if you could literally just wash your mind out with a hose and just allow the water to just wash it away. That's what that feels like. I feel like we could also find ourselves blurting out secrets, but we're already doing that. I feel like I've definitely been doing it over this weekend, just been kind of purging things, letting things go, sharing stuff with people. And really coming to new realizations and just suddenly blurting out things in conversation, just letting things out, letting things go. That could be coming up. I wouldn't be surprised. It's like Seven of Swords energy. Right, we got Five of Wands. So there is that letting us know that element of conflict, right? The kind of thing that always comes up with a Mercury Pluto aspect. Let's see what other cards. Ooh, this is quite fiery. 5 of Wands, 8 of Wands. Rapidity of speech. And the Hierophant. What's at the bottom? Judgment? Okay. This to me feels like, so personal example. I can't get away from personal examples today. That's just how it's going to go for me today. I mean, I'm typically like that. I feel like a lot, but I'm feeling like that even more right now. So this feels like when my husband and I get into like an argument, and we argue, but as we're arguing, I'm starting to realize like, wow, we're not just arguing about the human thing. This is like us trying to process some kind of energetic puzzle, because our energies are like massively different. Like we are one of those couples that are like really like yin and yang, right? We are very much yin and yang, like dynamic going on. And I always find like as the argument goes on, we come, man, this just won't stabilize. We come into these really deep insights, and then the argument just dissolves and fades away, and we are left with this, right? Portaling through to higher realms, judgment, transcending the petty problems, right? So with Judgment and the Hierophant, don't worry about the weird little conflicts. And of course, this doesn't have to come through with arguments between people. It could be tension in your own mind, you know, you having like a kind of an off day mentally, or like getting stuck in traffic, or just having a bunch of chaos, or maybe you're just like walking to the store and like everybody's honking their horns, right? It can be that kind of thing where things are just a little bit chaotic around you, right? Really, really fast, right? 8 of Wands, whatever's going on, it is rapid. And with that, but it's like the chaos is just portaling you through to that deeper understanding, to that deeper connection. So don't fear the chaos. Don't fear the chaos. I'm reminded that around this time last year, I made a video called Don't Fear the Reaper. And that was actually just before Bear transitioned, right? I was sitting there and I was kind of, I remember this, remembering this like very, very distinctly. And you guys know how bad my memory is. So the fact that this is coming to my mind is meaning I should share this. So last year around this time, I was starting to feel like, what's the next thing, right? Like I was feeling a little bit like I was at a plateau. I was feeling like I was stagnant. I was like, what's the next thing? And I just kind of asked, hey, show me what the next thing is. And then the next song that came on was Don't Fear the Reaper, by Blue Oyster Cult. And I thought that was really cool. And then of course, my cat decided that he didn't fear the Reaper and he left his body. And I remember going like, and I mean, first I made that video and called it Don't Fear the Reaper. And if I remember correctly, I think Mantis beings came through on that. And then right after that, Bear left his body, and I was like, wow, like, I wasn't exactly surprised because Bear was 18, and, we were kind of getting ready for it and all that. And it was like, I, as you could tell, I'm still kind of like working through it, even though it's been a year later. So why am I talking about this? Now my thought train got derailed. Let me get a card to get me back on track. Don't fear the Reaper had come to mind. Don't fear the changes, right? Don't fear the changes. They bring you closer to source. And they did, right? When Bear left his body, I was like, I went offline for a whole month. I didn't post anything. I didn't talk to anyone. And in fact, I have not returned to social media since then, right? Because I shut my shop off. I didn't do any readings for a month. I didn't talk to anyone for a month. We basically just sat on our couch for a month, and it was a really like beautiful period actually of our lives, even though we were grieving. I went through so many really intense and deep like astral experiences where I was recovering all these past life memories, and it had just been the Scorpio full moon, and it had just been the Pluto retrograde. So that's also, related here because we have Pluto retrograde coming up. So this portaling process and this release, right, brings you closer to source, With the Hierophant here, I could use many different words for that and Judgment, but really to me, the word right now is source. You replace that with whatever word you prefer, right? But it's like bringing you back to that, the wild rose. Do it your way. Embrace your uniqueness. Untamed. Bringing you back to your source, right? And I feel like that goes two ways, right? The cosmic transcendent way of like tuning back into your source itself, but also just like the source inside of you. And of course, the cosmic source is inside of you. But I do also feel like there's like a human level to this where it's getting back in touch with like, how to explain. It feels on one level like getting back in touch with who you really are, but there's like a new aspect to it. It's like who you really are now. Who is the new you? Who is the new you? How have you been reinventing yourself all this time? And this is let me get forward into these transits, because this is so much more than just this Mercury Pluto trine. So Friday, Mercury enters Gemini, which is going to be a very interesting shift because that's going to be activating our minds, but at the same time, on the same day, Pluto goes retrograde. Okay, and it was the day that Pluto went retrograde is the day Bear left his body last year. I remember that because I was like, wow. So for me, when Pluto goes retrograde, I mean, Pluto retrograde is it's happening like all the time, right? About 5 months a year, Pluto is retrograde. So it's not like it's an unusual thing, but it is, when it begins and when it ends, I feel it very, very intensely. Like, it of course depends on how tuned into Pluto you are, but it is a lot of a huge energetic shift when Pluto stations direct or stations retrograde. So it's stationing retrograde, and to me, the phrase that comes to mind is the quantum gates are open. The quantum gates are open. It like literally opens these portals, and that's how I experienced the Pluto retrograde last year. Of like, it's like I couldn't even like stay awake. I was asleep a lot, and when I was asleep, I was never really asleep. I was going through all of these portals and traveling all these dimensions and having all these crazy experiences, and it was just like my consciousness just couldn't stay here. It was just flying everywhere. It was getting like so expanded. And you know, actually how I feel this is when Pluto is direct, it feels more like, so Pluto has been direct for the last 6 months or so, since October something. When Pluto is direct, it feels more like the data stream comes to us, like the downloads come to us, like source communicates with us, right? When Pluto turns retrograde, there's more experiences of like you going places, you leaving your body, you go traveling to other dimensions, right? It's more like it reverses the flow. That's why it feels like the quantum gates are open. It reverses the flow. You start, instead of the data stream flowing to you, it's like that you enter the data stream and you start flowing out. So the wild rose, right? Tune into your wildness. Do it your way. Embrace your uniqueness. I'm, getting all kinds of images of, being in a canoe, right? And you decide where that. So, imagine you're on a river, right? A nice broad river, the kind of river you could canoe in, right? And maybe there's many branches to the river. So you are following the current, right? You don't need to paddle the whole time. You can just follow the current, and the current will take you. But you can stick your paddle in the river, and you can decide if you want to be towards the left bank or the right bank, or like which stream you want to be in. You can decide if you want to take that fork or this fork, right? So it's like a combination of going with the flow and following the river, and yet it's still entirely encouraged to put your oar in when you want to. You can still direct your direction, right? And I feel like that is a little bit of a message for anyone having like astral travel experiences, of like flowing out into the quantum. To an extent, it can feel like you're getting sucked out there, right? And I'm reminded of all the experiences I have had of like seeing portals or seeing the light, right? Seeing like the golden light. But whenever I'm presented with a portal or a ball of light that I'm being invited to flow into, right? If it's a portal in front of me, I can feel the portal like inviting me, saying, hey, do you want to come through? You want to come into the portal? And I have to say, yes, take me. If I see the golden light shining in front of me and it's beckoning me home, right? Beckoning me home, I have to say, yes, take me. Yes, I want to go. So there's always a consent required, right? There's always consent required. Benevolent forces never take you somewhere without your consent. Never, never, never. They would never do that. So it feels like there's going to be all of these energies, portals, balls of light, rays of light, streams of light, even like rivers of light, beings like beckoning you, hey, beckoning you, come. You still get to decide if you want to go, and you can always say no. They will always respect that, always, and they will not take it personally if you don't want to go. And you can decide how you navigate this. Also with Mercury going retrograde in Gemini, and it is eventually going to retrograde back into Taurus. This is like, man, to have Mercury and Pluto, so Mercury entering Gemini and then Pluto going retrograde on the same day, that's like massively opening you up to new potentials, because your mind, when Mercury enters Gemini, the mind starts, I mean, it comes back online, but with the Gemini energy, it's like multitudinous, right? There's like a multitude of different thoughts, a multitude of different personalities. Like Gemini is kind of all over the place, right? It will think everything. Mutable air energy, it will think anything. It will think about anything and everything, right? And with Pluto retrograde happening, it's like you're opening up to that and you can flow into any of it. And this is all, it's like, this would be like all of this stuff, right? All this stuff we've been talking about would be enough for 1 week for any of us. And here it is, culminates. The solar eclipse in Taurus. And it's funny that I wrote, and also on the same day as the solar eclipse, it's Jupiter conjunct Venus. And it's really funny that I wrote it down that way, Jupiter conjunct Venus, instead of Venus conjunct Jupiter. Because typically you would think the faster planet is the one, like Venus is much faster than Jupiter, so it's the one running into Jupiter, right? So it makes more sense to call it a Venus conjunct Jupiter, but I wrote it down as Jupiter conjunct Venus, which is very interesting. To me, that indicates that like Jupiter is going to be significant here, doing a tempering process. Jupiter is here to temper some of this energy. Because Jupiter is like a planet that's a little bit of a conundrum to me, honestly. In the last video I made, I was talking about how, I'm tuned into the planets. So that's like one of my things, but also that like Venus and Jupiter are two of the planets that, basically the two planets that are hardest for me to tune into. But the thing about Jupiter is it's about expansion, yes, but like it expands while simultaneously tempering, right? It's like it knows that in order to expand, there needs to be a pruning process. It's not just like, Jupiter is not about like uncontrolled expansion or uncontrolled growth. It's not like this capitalistic, like infinite growth thing. It knows that in order to expand like most effectively, the extremes need to be tucked in. It's like tucking in the extremes, folding in the extremes. With Jupiter, I don't feel that energy is ever typically like lost. It's like the extremes of the energy are folded back in, brought back into the core to be made stronger, right? So it's not this uncontrolled expansion, and it's not like like Pluto, right, likes to get rid of stuff, like to just completely get rid of energy. Jupiter isn't like that. It's bringing the energy back to the center so that you can further expand. It's this really gentle, expansive process. And Jupiter is going to be doing that to the Venus energy. Let's find out what that's about. Simplicity. Okay, so Jupiter is here to help us simplify, right? Like literally what I was saying. Sometimes simplification helps, like sometimes like reducing or tempering, right? Bringing back in some of the extremes, which I could have just said simplify. That's a really good word for that, right? Jupiter is here to help simplify some of this stuff, right? Some of our stuff, simplify it so that we can expand even further. It's like making us more efficient. And this is going to be happening with however you relate to Venus, really, like whatever that means to you, simplifying your divine feminine, simplifying what you're attracted to, or simplifying what you find beautiful, finding beauty in simplicity. Okay. But I think it's funny because this is also happening in Venus, right? So we have Venus dipping into Neptune, dipping into the cold waters of Neptune, going for a swim. All of that emotional stuff on Wednesday of Venus and Neptune, that's actually really beautiful to have Venus conjunct Neptune and then have Venus conjunct Jupiter right after that, because it's going to like simplify and prune away and temper all of that emotionality, right? All of that emotionality. But of course, it's going to be hard to feel the the Jupiter Venus conjunction, because it's happening on the day of the solar eclipse, and that's where we're all going to be at, the solar eclipse. And of course, the solar eclipse energy, I mean, you're already feeling it. It's not just that one day, right? It's an extended thing. After the rain, silver lining, relief, hope, mercy. It's over, acceptance. We have these sundogs here, double rainbow. Oh boy. I'm going to read from the book for this. Haven't even gotten to the cards yet. Where does this begin? Oh, interesting. This is the very first card of the deck. How perfect for a solar eclipse. There's something very special and sacred about the moment after it stops raining. The atmosphere has released all that it was holding, and in turn, the earth has been cleansed, replenished, and nourished. It's a similar feeling to the moment after we stop crying. As those salty healing waters fall, they activate oxytocin and endorphins, which create a shift in how we feel. What was once overwhelming now seems possible. And while we may not know it consciously, noticeable growth will soon follow. After the rain is all about hope, healing, beginnings, and endings. Emotions are soothed. Broken hearts are on the mend. Times of trial are over. Mercy can be felt. There's a moment of relief. A new, encouraging silver lining can now be made out in the distance. What's been challenging and difficult has or is about to ease up. If you've been going through a challenging time, this card is here to reassure you that the things are about to ease. You've been through the worst of it, and now hope is here. These past weeks, months, or even years haven't been straightforward. They've likely asked you to dig deep and endure hardships that have tested you, but now, at long last, there are smooth seas ahead. What you've learned and how you've grown can never be taken from you. And now it's a time to enjoy the warmth and blessings that life has in store for you. Glorious new beginnings are now possible. The soul inquiry down here is, what are you ready to release? Wow, guys. I have to thank Lydia again for sending me this deck in perfect timing for this eclipse reading, because I don't know of any other card that I have in my entire collection that would have brought through that specific message. I don't even really want to add to that. I think that this card, that message is what we are meant to hear about this eclipse. I have nothing to add to that. I'm going to leave you guys with that message. Sending you so much love and light. Bye.